wind my roll back, continue with my production. What I'm going to do now is make a splice with a knife instead of a pair of scissors, and let's say I pull off the bad product. First thing I want to do is bring my cutting board up here, lay flat, pull me extra length off that end, be able to put my labels together, make sure they're in line and straight. Once I do that, I'll hold them down. I'll take my ruler, lay across the cutting board itself, position it, hold it down, and with my razor knife, I'll go straight across it. Okay. Remove my ruler, move my end cuts out of the way. Take a piece of splicing tape. I'll lay one end over the splicing tape, lay it down with the adhesive face up, and fit it together like a puzzle. Once I get it in place, I'll apply pressure so the adhesive will hold them together. Then take my razor knife and trim the excess tape from each end. Remove the tape, remove the board, pull out the slack, and I'm ready to continue with my production. I've stopped the rewind table to explain that these are machine applied labels. When I say machine applied labels, I'm talking as our finished product goes out the door, the finished roll will be put on a label applicating machine and applied to a product. In this kind of application, there's two things that's very important about the label production. One is that there's no missing labels. If there's a missing label, then there's a good chance that a bottle going down a production line will get through the production line without a label on it because there wasn't a label here. Going to show you how we have missing labels on some of our products. That can't happen, so we always keep extra samples besides us to be able to replace the labels. That's what I'm going to do right now, is try to replace the label that is missing, so when it goes through the machine application, you are able to not miss this label on the bottle that comes through. Now, it's real important that this is placed exactly where it should be, and if you look on your liner, 90% of the time you can see the indentation of where the label was cut. You want to place it right in there, the exact place it's supposed to be. So you may have to lift the label and reposition it, but as long as you get it in the exact place it's supposed to be, then you have no worries about it being on the bottle itself crooked. I think there's two labels missing here, so I'm going to bring it on around to where I can position the second label. With that in place, I continue my production. Okay, important thing about machine application is to make sure the die isn't cutting too deep into the liner. If it cuts too deep in the liner, then when this roll is applied to the label applicating machine, all your tension is on the liner itself, and as it pulls, if the die cuts too deep, then the liner has a tendency to break. If the liner breaks, then you have to re-web the machinery of the label applicating machine. A way to ensure, normally this test would be done on press, and it has been checked, but we also check it in Rewind as a quality control standard. What we are going to do is take a Sharpie marker, mark the back of the liner to where the label was positioned, and if the die has cut through the liner, then the ink itself will bleed through the silicone and show the marks onto the base of the liner where the label laid. So what I'm going to do now is go to the back of the liner and just go over where the labels are. Now, if the liner was cut too deep, you could see the shape of the label bleeding through the marker on the front of the liner, and that looks good and it feels strong. The test can be done on the front and the back of the liner. The important thing is that when you do the marker test that you check and make sure that it doesn't bleed, because it will be very visible. The edge of your label will bleed through and your marker will create that outline of the label itself.
We're fixing to start up a job here. Let's get her loaded up. Looks like it might want to telescope a little bit, so we're going to have to be cautious with it. Bend your knees when you're loaded. Okay, we've got her installed. We're going to switch it to run. Get everything shut up. Pull our web around. We got it ribbed with plain paper to have a sterile beginning. You don't want any food or drink around your machines, and always read your job jacket stem to stern. Set the blades is always an option to the operator. You adjust it with a a little screw right here to tighten it or loosen it. You pull it right or left. It also has 4 more blades, so you could cut 4 across, actually 5 or 6. And your lower blade is located down here in the lower unit. And you slide this one manually back and forth and adjust the screw the same way. And make sure they're snug, or you'll get a dull cut on your paper, and it'll be harder for the people to apply it if they're machine applied. Okay, this is your unwind brake stopping tension. On this model machine, it should be somewhere between 40 and 70. 40 is going to work for a perf product because these labels are perforated in between each other, so you want a softer landing. Your unwind brake tension running is how tight your web is set. And on this particular product, it is set on 0. Your main speed, this product is running on 38 to 40, and that seems to be ideal for this run. Your clutch tension is where your rewind is actually pulled up here, and it should be set somewhere between 10 and 20, up to the operator on how tight he wants his rolls to be. If they're too tight, they will crush your cores, especially on a narrow label, like a 1/2 or a 1/4 inch wide width label, small thing. So you set it accordingly, but somewhere between 10 and 20. I think the book actually says they want it on 20, but you'll run into some jobs like a perforated job here that you may have to set it accordingly at a lower rating. This knob here will move and shift where you cut, where you actually cut. When you're cutting right here and parting this, if you need to make a fine adjustment right or left towards the machine or back towards you, it will set your cut accordingly where you need it to be in the web. This series of controls here, you have an emergency stop. If it goes off, it does not come out till you manually pull it back out. To run, you simply hold in the start button, you pull up the jog button, and it will begin moving. But first you will have to clear your counter or it will not advance. You clear your counter by simply following the arrows. You would move it to the right. And then you would start to run it by pulling up to jog. And if you wanted to stop, you would pull it immediately down. And nothing will run on these machines unless all cavities are closed where the blades are, because if blades are exposed, you can get hurt. You heard that solenoid click. That's the safety turning the machines back on. This is a job that goes on a 3-inch core. It is going to be a perfed product, or is a perf product, so we'll have to set some of the dials accordingly to make it run a little softer. But again, this is what the customer wants. On the rewind tension on the clutch, we're going to back it down so it won't pull as hard and break this perf line. Over here on our brake tension running, we're going to set it to 0. Our stopping tension should just remain the same. And the main speed will be up to the operator as to how he can see it with the strobe light. And if you get the wrong image, you have set up incorrectly. This is a Unilux litholite. It's a high quality strobe. It's very efficient doing its work to make sure you can see a still image for inspection purposes. You reset your counter back to 0 right here. Everything goes back to 0 over there, and we're going to slowly begin a run, test run. Okay. Since this is a perf product, you don't really need your scissors. You'll probably just be able to undo the perf. I wanted to show you the perf. Take these up to the customer specifications.